Yesterday we said that with the practice of the four foundations of mindfulness, the noble part of the constituents are involved in the practice, which is made up of three groups, namely Sila group, Sila Magganana, concentration group, Samadhi Magganana, and wisdom group, or wisdom path, Panya Magganana. In short, we can call this Sila Samadhi Panya. With morality, Sila, we can overcome the gross forms of impurities called Vitakama Kilesas. And with the practice of concentration, we overcome the obsessive types of defilements, Pariyatana Kilesa. And with the cultivation of insight knowledge, Vipassana Panya, the latent tendencies of defilements will be overcome, which will remain dormant if you are not able to cultivate insight knowledge. So, in this way, relevant training or practice, respective training or practice overcomes or eradicates the respective impurities. They are overcome by these three trainings of Sila Samadhi Panya. Because this training is taken upon yourself in order to overcome these three categories of impurities. It is known as Sekha training, and it is practiced, cultivated, so that we are able to overcome these impurities, impure, coarse and despicable forms of defilements. They are not, by not giving them a chance to arise in your stream of consciousness. When once you are fulfilled with these three trainings of Sila Samadhi Panya, all these impurities will not have a chance of arising in you. So that all your physical, verbal, mental behaviors become pure, cultured, gentle and affable. Hence it is known as Sasana, teaching. Whose Sasana, whose teaching is that? The Buddha's teaching, Buddha's Sasana, and locally called just Sasana. And you take upon yourself this teaching, Sasana, so that you are following the teachings of Buddha Sasana, or by practicing his teachings. And you are doing this self-sasana, cultivating yourself, or self-cultivation, and this is what you've been doing. In a sense, kilesas, defilements, impurities, and yogis can be considered to be enemies. Of course, these impurities, mental impurities, are not enemy in person. These impurities are the type of things which arise mentally in your mind, and if one is not free from these impurities, one will be oppressed and tormented and burned like fire. So, when they happen, when these impurities happen, they are like inner enemies, internal enemies. Now, with the practice of Satipatthana, if you're not practicing Satipatthana, you will not be free from the bondage of these enemies, and you have to save yourself. Nobody will come and save you. With the practice of Satipatthana, you are said to be battling or fighting against these enemies, internal enemies. By practicing in accordance with the Buddha's teachings. If you just leave as it is and just watch with arms folded and not doing anything, then you will not be free from the bondage of these enemies. Here, if you are overcome by these enemies, then you are bound to lose for the whole life, and you meet with suffering. So would you like to suffer loss and dukkha? If you do not practice Satipatthana and save yourself, then you will be defeated in the hands of the enemies, so that your life will become degraded. So understanding this, one should understand that one is one's own savior, and nobody else will come and save you. So in fact, the practice of Satipatthana is self-cultivation, self-saving, saving by yourself. Like when you are drifted along the current and nothing to depend upon. If you have nothing to depend upon, then you are bound to get drowned. So one should save oneself. In the case of conventional drowning in normal life, somebody may be able to come and save you, but not in this case. When you are getting drifted along this current of kilesas, you should be the only savior for yourself. So, in order to save yourself from these impurities, one should be able to practice mindfulness in accordance with the saying, be on your guard with vigilant mindfulness. By noting every arising object as it arises in your body, with proper aiming and energy, sustaining your mindfulness, deepening concentration, and as your noting mind is concurrent with the object, you are bound to see things in their true nature. So, by noting, by activating your mindfulness, you are said to be saving yourself. Then, this Satipatthana practice, the practice of Satipatthana, will become your friend, your close friend, your true friend. So, otherwise, you become your own enemy. Now you become your own friend. For those who are overcome by defilements, will not be able to behave the physical, verbal, mental conduct well, so that they will become impure. And not only will yourself, your only person, become impure, but you will cause the impurities all around you, in the society, and from the society to the whole world. The whole world will become tormented, oppressed, heated, so that it will become very dangerous. Buddha himself said this in the Dhammapada, monks, you must exert heroic energy in order to dry up the set of impurities. And Buddha continued to say that all Buddhas are guides. They only guide the way. You yourself must exert energy and practice the Dhamma. The practicing in accordance with the instructions, which is known as Patipana, is like walking the path set by the Buddha or the Buddhas. Then all one is required to do is just walk this path. That means undertake the practice. And what is the practice? Jayino. One should practice absorption. That is noting, activating one's mindfulness of every arising object as it arises. Whatever arises should be noted with precision and energy. So that such is given by this Vipassana Jai, the absorption on the jhana of insight. That is what one should practice. If one is not activating mindfulness, then one will be the loser. That means that the impurities will take the upper hand, will overwhelm you. Whereas if you undertake the practice, with the practice you can gain the upper hand of these impurities, so that you become liberated from the bondage of these undermining elements. And these are the undermining elements are given as Mara. They have to be overcome with practice, and the Buddhas have given a way. So, when you have the chance to practice, you should have enough energy, enough power. You have the methods now to subdue or win over these impurities. So you must practice in order to gain upper hand of these impurities. So in spite of the knowledge about the method of practice, if you do not undertake it, or even if you undertake it, if you are not doing thoroughly, properly, then the Mara, the personification of impurities, will take over. If you are confronted with greed-inducing objects, you will become greedy, you will crave for these desirable objects. If you come across hate-inducing objects, you will be overcome by ill will, hatred, so much so that sometimes there are cases of fatalities. People die of greed, excessive greed. People die of excessive hatred. And also, if you are not aware of the true nature of these objects, you become deluded, overcome by delusion. And then you may lose your life even with delusion, because you become so foolish that you walk the wrong foolish path, then you meet with death. So indulging in these impurities, one can lose one's dignity, even if one does not lose one's life. So, such are the enemies, and Mara is the personification of these kilesa enemies. So they are to be eradicated. And understanding this, you have the method to do it, and if you are able to do that, it's better that you overcome them on a part-time basis and then on a full-time basis, so that if you are able to attain the first path of consciousness, Sotapanna, then you will be able to overcome the respective defilements. Among these impurities, as we have discussed at one time, there are these avijja, ignorance, which is synonymous with moha, delusion, and tanha, craving, which is synonymous with the lobha, greed, which occurs in most of us as sentient beings, and they are the enemies to be overcome, to be subdued, to be oppressed. And the method which can subdue or overcome these two unwholesome, immoral mental states, avijja and tanha, should be the most important weapon. Must be most effective. Whatever method there is to overcome, subdue, eradicate these two things must be most effective method, must be most important, and should be most beneficial, should bring about the best benefit. So what is that method? What is that weapon? It is none other than the practice of Satipatthana. That means Satipatthana is the most effective method or weapon to subdue, oppress, overcome these two unwholesome mental states, avijja and tanha, ignorance and craving. So they are most effective, and they bring about the best benefit, best advantage, bring about the best result. Such should be the quality. Of what kind of result? With the practice of Satipatthana, you can attain such stages like Aryahood, attain ones or noble ones, or the Arahantship, the state of the noble, the highest noble one, attain the Arahant, and even Buddha. One can become the Buddha even with the practice of Satipatthana. And the Buddhas, the fully enlightened Buddhas, and Vichika Buddhas, silent Buddhas, and all Arahants have walked this path, have undertaken this practice. In the past, at present, and in also such practice will be undertaken in the future Buddha sasanas, when the future Buddhas come into enlightenment. So, as much as it has been practiced in old days, in order to overcome these internal enemies, as being as effective, most effective weapon to win victory over these undermining elements. As much as it has been done in the past, it is also being done at present and will be done in future, in the future Buddhas, the period of Buddha's enlightenment or teachings. So now the Buddha is not alive. Even if the Buddha is not alive, there is a method left behind by the Buddha. There are these teachings known as Dhamma Vinaya, doctrine, discipline. And although the Buddha has attained Parinibbana and is no more in person, he has left behind this Dhamma Vinaya on his behalf. So whoever has faith and confidence and strong zeal to undertake the practice will practice this Satipatthana. Then one is said to be taking upon oneself this Dhamma Vinaya, doctrine, discipline left behind by the Buddha. As the Buddha said, just before the Buddha's final passing away, the Buddha said that the Dhamma Vinaya, the doctrine, discipline left by him, would be your teacher. So, even if the Buddha is not present, the Dhamma doctrine is present. So it is just like the Buddha himself is present. So long as the Dhamma Vinaya is practiced, we can say that the Buddha is there. We are practicing, we are following his teachings, the Buddha's teachings. So, if we are able to undertake the practice of Satipatthana, we can consider that the Buddha is alive, because Dhamma, so long as the Dhamma is alive, the Buddha is alive. If the Dhamma is not alive, then there won't be any Buddha. If there is Satipatthana, the practice of Satipatthana, so long as there is the practice of Satipatthana, there will be the Buddha. So, otherwise, if you are not taking up the practice of Satipatthana, then you will only be able to pay respect to the image of the Buddha. Whether it is human being or lay person or monk, once he or she is fulfilled with morality, sila sikha, as the Buddha has given the prohibitions, disciplinary codes by the Buddha, both for the lay people and the monks, with great compassion. So if one is able to sustain this discipline, follow the discipline, one will be able to cultivate one's life, so long as one sticks to the discipline. One will be able to overcome the gross forms of these two unwholesome mental states. We've discussed avijja and tanha. The gross form of avijja and tanha will be overcome, which are the gross forms of defilements. We'll be free from that. And this And this morality has that kind of effectiveness in order to do away with these gross forms of impurities, and such an immediate benefit of the practice of sila, sekha, the training of morality, so that one's physical and verbal behaviors will become pure, blameless, cultured, gentle, and affable. Then one will become a real human being. So such are the immediate benefits. And also not only that one cultivates oneself, one can also be of benefit to the society by not harming the society because of the practice of morality. So in this way, the morality, sila, sekha, has the effectiveness or quality of overcoming the gross forms of impurities which can arise in your body and speech. Such are the immediate benefits. And also, if you are able to sustain this morality, moral conduct, you become satisfied with yourself, because you won't blame yourself. There will be no self-blame, and the society will not blame you. You will only be praised by the society, by the community, and because you are not transgressing any disciplines, you will not be disciplined by the authorities. And also, so long as you are going to traverse along the endless round of samsara, with births and deaths, you will not fall into lower states. And there are many benefits as a result of the practice of morality. You can improve or cultivate your own little world, and also the world of your society, so that the whole world will become peaceful. Free from this physical, verbal, obsessive defilements that can arise in one's mind, defilements, impurities which can arise in one's mind. And if such things, for instance, this avijja, atana, ignorance, and craving arise in one's mind, one becomes obsessed with it, then all one has got to do is note and abandon and subdue, overcome, with guarding your mind with vigilant mindfulness, noting every arising object with ardent energy, activating mindfulness and deepening your concentration, thus cultivating the concentration group made up of Viriya, Sati, Samadhi, energy, mindfulness and concentration. So that the obsessive defilements in terms of all these impurities, such as avijja, ignorance and craving, will not have a chance to rise in your stream of consciousness. And this group of Viriya, Sati, Samadhi is known as Samadhi Khanda, concentration group. And with the practice of the concentration group, we can overcome these respective impurities which can arise in one's own mind. So such is its effectiveness. So that your mind becomes pure, blameless, cultured, gentle and peaceful. So that you are said to have gained the upper hand of these obsessive type of impurities. So if at all they arise in your mind, just note and overcome until when you are able to progress along the path, cultivating insight knowledge, you will be also overcoming the latent tendencies of impurities of mind, known as anusaya kilesas, which can lay dormant in your mind, even if they don't show up. So every time you cultivate knowledge, cultivate inside knowledge, you are eradicating, cutting off the latent tendencies. Such is its effectiveness, the effectiveness of the inside knowledge. So that they bring the method which brings most effect, which is most effective, and which brings about the best result. So that if you are able to eradicate these impurities to the point of no return, and realize this path, consciousness, and the fruit of the path, you'll be free from falling into dangerous states. How beneficial it would be. Once you are able to become fulfilled with this practice of 3 trainings, Samadhi Prajna, all your physical, verbal, mental behavior will become purified, will become blameless. If you have them, if you have these impurities, you will be degraded. Now you are upgraded, so that you become Ariya, noble. And if you're noble, Purisodo, you're pure, becomes Uttamo, you're sublime. So this is the effectiveness of the Sila Samadhi Prajna, the 3 trainings. And if you look at your behaviors, physically, verbally, or mentally, from all angles, you will find that they become noble, pure, and sublime. Such is the quality of Magganana. Thus, one leads to the cessation with the practice of systematic practice. One is led to the end of kilesa suffering due to these kilesas. And this way or method is the method which leads to the cessation or extinction of suffering with the systematic practice. That is given as Samma Dukkakaya Gami, Samma rightly Dukkakaya cessation of kilesa suffering, Gami reaching or leading. So, as we've said, with the practice of Satipatthana, we are practicing also the Noble Path of Way constituents, which is made up of the 3 groups, or 3 parts, namely Sila Magganana, Samadhi Magganana, and Panya Magganana, overcoming the 3 categories of impurities, gross, medium, and refined. And every time we practice, activate mindfulness, they are said to be, they're said to cease. They come to cessation. They come to the end of the course of medium or refined form of defilements. Meanwhile, if at all these impurities arise in the stream of consciousness, you just note and abandon. And every time you note and know, you are said to be reaching the state of cessation of the suffering due to defilements. In this way, as you are able to activate the mindfulness of every arising object in a systematic manner, rightly doing it, these impurities will not have a chance to arise, and if it all arises, you just overcome and gain the upper hand of them. And every time you do it, you are said to be reaching the end of suffering. And this will be verified with your own experiential knowledge. So that if there is no impurities, such as vajatana, ignorance and craving, there cannot be this action performed. There will be no performance of action, good or bad, leading to the wrong. And if there is no action, good or bad, leading to the wrong, there will be no round of resultant vipaka, initial result and continuation result. In this way, you are said to be reaching the end of the round, vata suffering, every time you practice mindfulness. So you are reaching the end, the cessation of kilesa suffering. Such is the quality of the noble path of constituents, Ariya, noble, pure and noble, and this has the quantitatively and qualitatively. From a qualitative aspect, you are said to be gaining this Ariya, pure and noble, and Sammadhavakayagami, rightly leading or reaching the end of suffering. And as regards quantity, it's a noble path. There are 8 constituents. So you, in terms of quality, you gain this Ariya, pure and noble, and Sammadhavakayagami, reaching the end of such. This is depending on Satipatthana, depending upon yourself, making yourself island of refuge, or make yourself island of refuge, is depending upon the Satipatthana, depending upon the Dhamma. Make Dhamma your island of refuge. That means make Satipatthana your island of refuge. By this you are able to cultivate your physical, verbal and mental behaviors, and by which you are subduing or overcoming, gaining the upper hand of these internal enemies which cause you a lot of trouble. And once you gain victory, you are said to have become the real spiritual hero. That's all for today. Said to have become the real spiritual hero. That's all for today. Said to have become the real spiritual